Right. And you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you well. Thank you for joining. I'm curious, what prompted you to contact me? What was it that you wanted to learn about esports specifically?
Well, yeah, first of all, thank you very much for taking that time and having a chat with me. Uh, Actually, as I wrote to you beforehand, I'm a senior UX designer and trying to move into the gaming industry as a game UX designer. I mean, that's my dream job. And and actually, on the other hand, I like um, watching esports. Yeah, and that's why I was thinking about, okay, what kind of positions are there in esports? Um, because yeah, that's not the near future for me, but it would be so nice to participate in esports somehow, not as a gamer, but as in other capacities. And and that's why I was curious about, okay, I know this industry, I mean the esports out from outside as a viewer only. I loved watching different kind of esports, but I wasn't sure, how someone can get into this industry, and also what are the different job opportunities there. And again, I'm not thinking about moving there like soon, but just looking around. And first of all, I'd like to have a job as a game UX designer, and later on maybe somehow be part of esports as well. But yeah, this is my main motivation, I would say.
Excellent. Yeah, I'm always curious because the way I speak with game developers and different designers and artists is different because everybody has their, as you call it, their affinity, right? Their path that they want to take. And so
Yeah.
I'll give you a bit of background for me. I wanted to be a game developer. It didn't happen yet because I had to focus on the business side of things in esports first, and then to understand how to create events, manage an esports team, an organization, etc. And all of that is great and fun. However, what I actually wanted to do was be a game developer. Since I was fairly young, back in my teenage years, I just did not have the right path at the time. So for me, the way I look at the job opportunities, as you expressed earlier, as from a lifestyle design perspective, would be just go forward in terms of what can you design right now, right? It would be a maybe indie game, or from my background personally as a graphic designer, it would be some kind of maybe I do pitch deck design for a startup company. Then you can go to different events, and then you can go pitch to sponsors, investors, etc. Or maybe back at the game development perspective, you can collaborate on some kind of, let's say, you want to work on a startup company and you have an entry level position opportunity. A lot of people would recommend you go and interview for a lot of these companies. And the problem with that is there's way more game developers that are necessary now than just the last year, right? The demand has increased a lot. The problem is everybody's applying for the same jobs. And in order to get many of these jobs specifically for esports, not just the video game industry, esports is different because a lot of major esports games, as you know, like League of Legends, for example, started off as indie games. Unless you're talking about something specific like, Counter Strike that was super popular even a decade ago, that's a rarity among the esports titles. So you want to focus on specific job opportunities that have a very high barrier to entry. So maybe you need to have, let's say, your portfolio of previous, UI UX design, and then you have a portfolio of, let's say, uh, previous small businesses or startups that you worked with. And then on top of that, you can start doing things like this where you discuss with people in the industry, say, hey, what kind of indie game could I develop, or what kind of project could I develop? And then I can go pitch that to a startup company or pitch that to a small business, because the more opportunities that you want to grasp in esports right now, especially as we go into a recession and there's a lot of layoffs, a lot of company turnover in terms of talent being uh, acquired and then released. And it's just a continuous cycle. So you want to be part of the, how do I say it? Either, I wouldn't say middle management, because trying to get a middle management job, especially during recession, it will be difficult, because how many middle managers have been laid off? There's going to be many of those people. So you want to think about aiming for a seniority position, either in a small business that's just being created or a startup company where they give you equity. And so you'd say, maybe I want to create an indie game company. And then I said, hey, what can I do to build my portfolio of game design projects? Maybe you said something in familiarity, which would be environmental design, level design. That's something where you can go into a myriad of games for not just esports, but many different other games. And then you can start building your portfolio and not just apply to jobs, but then speak with people like myself, who I mentor different game developers, and a lot of them, they don't have the staff they need. And so the problem that you're going to face is the amount of jobs you're going to apply to, it's going to be high, but the amount of projects that you need to have your actual hands on experience, right? So maybe you have your first game design competition or something, right? And you have 6 months to develop a mini game, right? Like, do things like that where you can just gain experience very quickly. And so if you look at my LinkedIn, you can see back, I have all these mentoring positions that maybe lasted like a month, right? 25 days, 30 days. It's not a long period of time. Mentoring is best when you have a really intense experience and it happens quickly, so people can gain skills, gain experiences, actually go to events, actually develop a game, actually build a startup company or something. And then you can increase your surface luck area. So that means the more jobs you apply to, the more people you speak with, the more level designs that you actually pitch to these different game companies, etc. That'll be better for you overall, because then you have more opportunities that you'll be able to realize. And so when I'm speaking with you about why you contacted me, I just wanted to know, like, what's your timeline, right? If you had 6 months, right, how many people do you have to speak to in 6 months, right? It could be 5 people, it could be 10 people from different companies. Some people, they need a job next week, right? Because they were laid off. And so that means you have to speak to maybe 50 different people within 7 days, because you have to go to 50 different small businesses. And so a lot of these people will be on LinkedIn applying for jobs. And the problem with that is you have to compete with everybody on LinkedIn. You have to compete with everybody on Hitmarker. And so I'll show you what I mean real quickly as I go to this website, and you'll see. So I'll post it in the chat here. So this website, Hitmarker, is traditionally where you would go for many job career opportunities in esports and the video game industry. However, there's another site called eFuse. And then one more. There is this site called 10. So these websites are going to get you started. But as I mentioned before, you're going to apply to many jobs, but that's not the best strategy, actually. The most practical tactic for you is just to get hands-on experience right now. So maybe you go and get, again, level design experience, right, in a competition 6 months from now. Just develop a mini game, and then you make a pitch to a small business or startup company, be like, hey, I made a mini game, right? And then you go to 10.gg, you go to eFuse, you go to Hitmarker, you find all these, executives and business owners, and you just pitch them directly. Say, hey, I've got level design experience. If you need somebody who has this experience specifically, then I'm available, right? And then you just move on to the next. Like, if you want to apply to all these jobs on these websites, you can. Again, the problem is the energy it's going to take you to realize the opportunity in a week, right? It's going to be 100 different people that you have to contact, or 6 months from now, right? Those 5 to 10 different people that you have to contact from specific companies. You have to be very critical about which people you're contacting at what time. And that's just a few of the websites I can show you right now that would help you with that.
Yeah, and thank you very much. I already knew the first one, but the second and third one is, well, that's new for me. So I will definitely check it out. And actually, yeah, that's what I'm doing right now. I mean, I've just built my portfolio, or amended my portfolio, because I had some pieces over there, but those were not game related. So actually, I redesigned the game menu by myself, which was, I think, not greatly designed. I mean, from a UX perspective, I redesigned it, created a portfolio piece about it.
I gotta cut you off here, Tamás, because it doesn't matter if it's great. You can design something absolutely horrible. It doesn't matter. What matters is that you actually did it. Because you have to think, compared to people who are being laid off, right? They don't get to design anything anymore at that company. So when you're trying to acquire an opportunity in esports or the video game industry in general, you have to think, there are people who have just lost opportunities. And if you're here sitting thinking, oh, this design wasn't as good as it could be, like that's not going to help you. That kind of thinking, it's only going to anchor you down. And so we call these things gravity problems, where it's just an immense weight which will be almost impossible to move you forward where you want to go. And so this path I'm talking about, talking to these different people, 5 to 10 people over 6 months, like you can take a week or two to find the first person because you have 6 months, right? But if you had only a week to get a new job opportunity, then you have to find 100 different people, 100 different companies. You have to pitch all of them. You might have to adjust your portfolio a bit. You might have to make, some kind of, what do you call it? A teaser pitch deck, right, for level design. And then you might have to do a whole bunch of things in terms of conversations like this, speaking with people like myself who, hey, maybe when I develop my game, right, I want to learn game design myself. When I develop my game, right, who could help me, right? Who could be someone who could do level design for the game I want to create? And so you got to think, how many people do you have to speak to in that week? It's a lot of people. And so that kind of ideation in your mind saying, well, this design wasn't great, you kind of want to flip that thinking. You want to think, well, it's not a great design, but that's not important. You have a week to figure out your next opportunity, or you have 6 months to figure out your next opportunity. What matters is getting the opportunity, and then you can innovate, iterate, and then make the design better later once you actually have the job or a career.
I see. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Actually, that's what I'm currently doing. That, reaching out to people and in a big number, like, talking to 5 to 10 people in the coming next few days, and then, even getting more and more meetings. So that's my purpose for actually for the next 2 weeks, to discuss with as many people as I can, get their perspective, their infos, how they think about job market, and I'm not talking with you or with someone to hire me, but in order to learn as much as I can about this industry. And of course, there are job offerings, so I will apply for those. But actually I would like to use these talks in order to grow my perspective on the gaming industry. And for example, you mentioned that the big layoffs last year and so on. So these kind of informations are very helpful for me.
Yeah, because as you mentioned here, the first question was what positions are there in esports? Well, we're talking about layoffs right now. A lot of companies are losing their talent. So, there's aren't going to be many positions that might be your ideal situation. But again, that's okay. You just want to gain experience first. And why that is more important than just having an ideal situation where you have the perfect design or the perfect, pitch, whatever, is because the way people think about video games is very stagnant. They think, oh, I'm just gonna get a job at, Bungie, for example, right? 343 Industries, Bethesda, like Riot Games, any of these, studios, the way many of these companies will work with publishers is they'll say, we have this timeline to develop a game and we have this many designers. We need you to start testing immediately for this game. And so you might think, well, I might not have a great position at Riot Games, but what do you have to do during a recession at Riot Games? So if you want to keep your job, you're gonna have to figure out how to level up your skills beyond all the expectations of standards that they have, because many of them, as you know, they're gonna get paid their six-figure salary, and then they're just gonna coast, and then layoffs are gonna come, they're gonna lose their job, and then that's it for them. No more opportunity there. And the problem for you is gonna be thinking about, you know, 3 6 months ahead of time, which companies haven't experienced their layoffs yet. Because if you target companies that have experienced layoffs, everybody's going to be applying to that company.
Mhm.
And so you don't want to think about, let's just use a hypothetical situation. You don't want to think, if it was me and I'm a graphic designer, I don't want to think, I want to take this person's job at Riot Games who's a graphic designer. Like, don't steal somebody's job who's already employed. That's not going to work out. What you actually do want to do is think, Riot Games, are they going to experience layoffs? And if so, when is that? Because once they lay off a graphic designer, then you can go speak with that graphic designer and say, hey, I'm interested in listening to your story. What happened that caused the layoffs? Because you don't want to be that graphic designer getting laid off at Riot Games. And so if you can speak with some of these different designers who have experienced layoffs recently, not just people like myself who are doing, hiring decisions in some of these startups, then you'll have better understanding. Because for me, right, I'm not laying off any designers. And so I can't help you understand that. And that's why I'm saying you want to go speak with them right now so you understand, like, okay, maybe this is something that's going to protect you, give you job security at a certain company, and you won't make that same mistake. Because if you just ask me, what positions are there in esports that you can apply to or you can maybe work on, that's not going to help you very much. Because again, when layoffs are happening right now, we have a recession. A lot of game studios aren't even going to have enough funding to make it through to the next season. It's very sad. It's not going to matter what position that you desire if the game studio doesn't have an opportunity for you at all.
Okay. Yeah. Maybe. Yeah, I agree with you. And sorry, maybe my question wasn't that much. I mean, it wasn't that clear, because when I said what positions are there, I wasn't thinking about, okay, what exact positions are there to are open to fill, but I was like thinking about generally in esports. But I guess that there are tons
That's
of
the
different.
danger though, because if you think generally, right? Like if you look at my position in esports, right? I'm not a generalist, right? I work with very specific teams, very specific organizations, very specific tech companies. I have a very small clientele, only a few people I mentor each year. On my YouTube channel, only a few people actually, have these discussions with me each year that I actually upload publicly. So it's a very small clientele, it's a very small mentee base. But why is that? It's because if I tried to generalize everything for a designer like yourself, there's going to be thousands and thousands of designers who want job opportunities, but I can't help thousands and thousands of designers like that because it's not efficient. I can only have one conversation with you right now. If I made an online course, maybe, but again, it's not efficient to make an online course about something which I have no experience with level design. And so I do have experience as an artist in gaming in general, but I don't have experience with specific level design. And so the more specific you go, the easier it is for someone to help you. And if you want a general, a general advice, right, then you wouldn't go to me because I don't have general advice for you. I would just say, hey, figure out what company you'd like to work with, and then figure out probably a senior position in a startup company or a new small business so you can get equity or job security. Those are general advice. And the problem is anybody can do that. But the real issue that anybody's going to face is, again, layoffs, not having enough money. And that's going to be a constant strain if you're just thinking about the generality of the video game industry. Because even myself, a lot of people contact me, they're like, hey, I can't get a job. I have this many years of experience. I'm like, okay, that's unfortunate. There's nothing I can do. There's too many people who are talented like you are, but they're not getting the opportunities they want. And so if you're going to be general about things with the advice, then it's not going to help all those people.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I totally agree with you, and yeah, thank you for the insights. I mean, those are useful.
You mentioned remote work was the third question.
Yeah.
So as you work in the video game industry, you will eventually have opportunities to work remotely full time. And so this is something that is very specific again. In generality, many people don't work remotely. They can, but they don't because they might physically prefer going to an office, right? But as you know, with advancements in machine learning, AI, etc., you can just work remotely and do a lot of your work from anywhere. And so the issue you might face now with that is how quickly can you transition. So for me, I work 100% remotely, just out of my home. And I've been doing that since I was about 16. So I've never had to go into a specific office building, or rarely I ever actually go into an office building, sometimes when I have a meeting. But you have a very small number of people who will prefer to work only remotely because they just are introverted. They have high social anxiety. That's a small number of people, though. A lot of people prefer to work in an office setting in the gaming industry just because the camaraderie, right? Having your team there. So don't aim necessarily for a remote position at first. Try to get something local to you. And if you can't do that physically in person, aim for a remote position and let me know how that goes. I don't know what that remote position would be. However, I know a lot of in-person opportunities in an actual office setting are going to be usually much better if you like your team, have the right environment, and that's just a healthier atmosphere. So try specifically at first to get in person, and then second would be remote, and third would be a hybrid. So if you can work from home and go into the office, that'd be also an ideal situation if you can't get the first two.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
So yeah. You mentioned also where are the main hubs for esports jobs. So the way you would go about this specifically, so let's say, where do you want to work? Remotely or in an office setting?
Well, as I'm located in Hungary, which is not the main hotspot for game design, I would say yeah, I'm open for relocation within Europe. That would be my first goal. Like UK, Sweden, I heard that these are the two big hubs for game design in general, but I'm not sure about esports. But within Europe, that would be okay to move.
Okay, so your goal then, or let's say not goal, but your path for affinity and actual location, your environment, it needs to be fit for your timeline. So let's say if you wanted to go to, London, for example, how quickly can you go from where you are now being employed at London or closer to London? And then, what are the steps that you'd have to take? So right now, with the layoffs, again, you got to think about recession. If you want to have job security, then you'd want to move sooner rather than later because you have to meet different people in terms of the game industry, just in general. But esports specifically, it's a very gate kept community. So there's a lot of people who they won't give you opportunities in London unless they see you face to face. And again, for myself, because I'm in Provo, Utah, there's a lot of opportunities here I didn't get unless I saw people face to face. So you might want to think about moving earlier rather than later. And then in terms of a main hub, because esports is digital, you can make your main hub more, how do you say this? You can make it more powerful in terms of you move to London earlier, but then figure out an arrangement where just in case, right, if you don't have job security, where can you work remotely? Because a lot of people think it's going to be difficult with the game industry and layoffs, but in esports, it's even more pressing in terms of the pressure where people have no idea, is your indie game studio going to be successful with an esports title next month? A lot of people who develop esports specifically, they're not successful with their games. And so you might look at something where you move to London, you work specifically in the video game industry, but not on esports, which is fine. Like you can always pivot your career path, and then because you're in London, right? Like opportunities are still going to be there. The problem though is if you want an actual main hub physically, and it's not just like you're talking to people online like this, you do need to go to London and meet them physically first. You can't skip that part. And that's something where a lot of people are like, oh, I don't want to go meet people just to get like, an esports opportunity. But that's the problem. In esports, it's all event based. So when I'm creating an event and I might meet somebody, I meet a lot of people online like this because I just have to. It's just too many people that want mentoring or something. And so you can't just be physically there for everybody. Even at the local LAN centers, you can't just go there physically meet everybody. So you want to think about in your situation to have the opportunities you want to move there quickly, but also you want to know which opportunities are right for esports in this current environment for you. So if you have an event manager that you can contact, do that first. They might not have an opportunity for you to be a designer at a company that they work with, but again, getting to know an event manager in London, getting to know a game publisher in London, that's way better for you long term.
Yeah, agree. I mean, yeah. I mean, sorry for not responding instantly, but just trying to, think about all what you said, and I couldn't agree more that yeah, first, I mean, impression in person is much more valuable, and I'm willing to do that as well if in order. I mean, it is just to meet someone, to go to London for a, I don't know, we can organize meetings in order to get that contact first. But
Yeah,
yeah,
of course.
very good.
You have the skills. It's not a skill problem that you lack. It's the social problem.
Yep.
So you need to meet
True.
more people. You need to meet not myself. You don't need to meet someone like me who's just going to be mentoring you forever. That's not going to be efficient for you. You need to go meet a publisher in London. You need to go meet
Yep.
an event manager. You need to go meet someone who is an actual game developer who was laid off in London and speak with them about, how to prevent that from happening to you, right? Like there's specific people who you need to meet first, and then let's say, 3 months, 6 months, a year from now, you come back and talk to me and tell me how it goes. Like, what did that game designer who was laid off in London say? How did this event manager, for example, respond when you said, I want an opportunity in esports? Can I work with one of your publishers at an event? Right? Like, if you can let me know how these people respond, and then we can make a plan about like what you can do to further your career. Because right now, the only plan of action I can help you with is you need to physically move, because you can work online like this, but again, this isn't efficient because this is a one-to-one conversation. As a designer,
Yeah.
you're going to be working with many, many people. And so your team might be maybe 2 to 5 different designers if it's a small team, or maybe more. But then, you're going to publish a game or something, and it's going to be a huge project reaching many thousands or millions of people. And so you want to think, how can you actually physically go to where people will be enjoying your game or enjoying your event? And being in London would be a great place for you, especially during the recession, where as people are continuing to consume more esports content, there's going to be probably another lockdown or something. What can they do? Right? It's going to be watching YouTube videos, watching an esports event, talking to someone like yourself who's doing level design because they want to learn, right? That's something where you need to physically be there and you can't replace that online.
Yep. And regarding the tip, I mean, you mentioned that I should also have a conversation with someone who has been laid off recently. I mean, that's a very good point, and I will take it with myself definitely, because since now, I was contacting, people like you who could mentor me, who could provide some insights. But this is a very good
You
tip, so
don't
thank you.
Thomas, you don't need a mentor. Like I'm not here to,
Yeah.
make you successful in your career path. I can't do that for you. But someone who is a laid off game designer, they can actually. They can give you the path that you want because they've been there. And they can
Yeah.
also help you avoid the path that you don't want because they've been there. Do you see?
Yeah, absolutely. I just wanted to say thank you, because that's a really good point you made, and I didn't think about it till now.
Yeah, you,
But
you
that's
have you have the energy to speak with these designers. And I'm not saying just go speak with all these people who are laid off. What I am saying is find the right
sure.
person who is laid off because of a specific esports or gaming company that you would like to be associated with. I'm not saying you have to work with the company. I'm just saying, like, hey, maybe you want to go experience their esports event, right? Like, that's an experience that is fun and good for you. And the both of you can talk about, hey, my name's Tamás, right? Just give you a hypothetical. My name's Tamás. I am interested in level design. What is it like being a designer in esports or the video game industry? And I've heard you work at this company, right? What happened at this company? And you don't have to make it about the layoff, just make it about that experience that you can enjoy together. Because again, many of these people who are going to be stressed out, they don't want to talk about all the bad things. They just want to enjoy
Sure.
the video games. They want to enjoy the esport. And that's where you're going to be able to build the best opportunities for yourself, because these relationships, you can't replace that with someone like myself who's just going to say, hey, go to this company and apply. Like, that's not going to help you, really. What is going to help you is finding that right person. And then you go become their friend. You say, hey, I don't have any idea what it's like being laid off in esports. I'm sorry that happened to you. However, I'm here. I'm willing to listen to your story. Like, let's go have a coffee. Like, let's go talk about it. Like, what can I learn from your experience, where you're coming from a place of genuine curiosity because you don't know, and I don't know either. I'm curious too.
Yeah, I will definitely come back to you and tell you later on.
Of course, man. I'm always here open to have a conversation with you. I'm happy that you've taken this path. Just again, please, I pray, do take the time to, really study esports and video games, the economics behind it, understand why the layoffs happen in the first place. And then
Sure.
again, with people who are designers who were recently laid off, like again, just see which person is willing to open up to you and become their friend. Just say, I'm curious, and you know take some notes about things that you can learn, right? Because there's going to be a whole bunch of lessons that you can learn from them that you're not going to be able to get from a hiring manager. You're not going to be able to get it from an executive who doesn't even see the artists day to day. And all these lessons, you can come back and tell me about it, and I'll be like, hey, you don't need a mentor, you need this person. They have all the data, they have all the insights that you'll need to further your career in ways that nobody else really can.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah.
All right, Thomas, where
So,
can people find you online? I want to know that.
well, mainly on LinkedIn, I would say. So that will be the first point of contact, but there's also my email address and phone number, but LinkedIn is the first source.
Awesome. I'm very thankful for your time here. And please, there's so much that I have learned from just your own experience, and I do have an interest in game design. So in the future, definitely will contact you and reach out to you in terms of what you've been able to experience and where your path has taken you.
Yeah. And thank you very much for taking the time to talk with me. Thank you very much.
You're welcome, my friend. Take care,
Yeah.
brother.
Take care. Have a nice day. Bye.